All right, welcome back into the Clay Edwards Show here live on 103.9 WYAB. This segment is going to be brought to you by Watchman Security Services, located right there in Pearl, Mississippi, but operating statewide, locally and family owned for 35 years right here in Central Mississippi by Nathan and Eric Knight. So look, these guys, they're an alarm.com certified installer. That's right. 15 years plus they've been with alarm.com. If you need indoor, outdoor cameras, security systems, remote gate access, smart doorbells, thermostats, and more, commercial or residential, you want to be able to pull it up, watch what's going on from your house, from your phone, open a gate from your phone, from wherever you want in the world. Oh, there's somebody dropping a package off. Doop. Open the gate for them, watch them, make sure nobody's stealing your packages or not dropping them off, whatever. I'm just thinking of things. You get into that time of the year where there's a lot of package theft. I mean, it's cheaper to have a security system than it is to try to get one of these delivery services to actually get your package. All these people stealing packages and stuff off doorways. I mean, that's become like a whole thing in itself.
Right.
Protect yourself. Get you a Watchman security system, watchmansecure.com. Shop them online 24 hours a day. See what they can do. And give them a call. Talk to Nathan. Talk to Eric. Let them come out. Get you hooked up. 601-955-9952. All right. I am joined in the studio. This is going to be our third episode of the Recovery Podcast, the Testimonial Tuesdays. I've got Nikki Patchin with me. She is the Public Relations and Community Director for Saving Grace Women's Home, located at 959 Andrew Chapel Road, right out there in Brandon. And I've worked my way over there, almost there twice this past week, and got turned around and had to get back to the dealership. But I was going out to take a tour of the place, but I've seen the photos. It's a beautiful deal.
Yes, it is.
I could definitely understand how people can get out there and find some serenity.
Absolutely.
How is it funded?
Well, it's only funded through our fundraising and donations.
So,
since we're faith-based, we don't receive any type of government or assistance at all. We don't receive any funding for that. So we work for our funding.
So before we jump into your story, let's ask this real quick, because this is important. I don't want to forget it. Somebody out there right now, they've got a daughter, a sister, a wife that is going through the throes of addiction, and they're ready to get some help. How can they get their family member into your home?
You can reach us. You can call us anytime. We have an intake coordinator, but you can call my phone at 601-572-7878, and we can get you in contact with our intake coordinators, and that's right now. You can do that, and we will follow up with you. We will get them in. We'll work with if you have anyone who is incarcerated at this time, we can definitely get in touch with a public defender, a judge. We will help to speak on their behalf in hopes to get them the proper recovery, not just incarceration, but recovery and some assistance in whatever their needs are.
So is this more like a halfway house, or somebody can come straight off I'm just being worst case scenario here, straight off the streets in the throes of addiction? They can come in at that point and work the whole program there from point A to Z?
Absolutely. That's
good to hear.
Yes.
Good to hear, because I know somebody out there is listening right now.
Absolutely.
And they may be listening to this a month from now on the podcast and hear this and like, oh man, thank you so much for Nikki coming on and doing this.
Right.
Because, I had a family member, a female family member, who had gone through some addiction issues, and finding somewhere for women to go is difficult. There's not a whole lot of places that women can go in Mississippi.
Right.
It just, especially in central Mississippi.
Right.
What we are lacking around here are battered women's shelters and recovery centers for women.
Yeah.
So it's good to know that you guys have something in place for this. All right,
Yes,
Nikki,
we do.
Let's start at the beginning. The question I like to ask is, how did it all start for you? Where did it go wrong? Did you start with drugs? Did you start with alcohol? Or did you start with prescription medicine?
So whenever Jackson was Jackson, And we had Jubilee Jam, we had St. Patty's Day, parades. It was wild. We had a lot going on, and alcohol, I drank a lot on the weekends, and it was the thing to go to the club. And then when I was about 24, I was prescribed Adderall. And I took Adderall prescribed for 10 years. Whenever you're prescribed your addiction, you can guarantee whatever it is that you have, that you are not addicted to that substance. And in reality, yes, you are. And
it's such a gateway drug to meth.
Oh God, it is. Yes, it is.
I mean, it's prescribed meth. Mm-hmm. It is absolutely a gateway drug to meth. I mean, not for everybody.
Right.
But, man, more times than not, as I was going through my addiction with speed and all that,
mm-hmm.
so many of those other guys along the way had got there from Adderall.
Right.
Even
mm-hmm.
if they weren't prescribed, they were just taking it from their friend's prescription to party on the
right.
weekends. And it was like, well, I can't find no Adderall, but this one time I tried some meth, and there was no going back to Adderall.
Mm-hmm. Well, Adderall to me was, it had me. It did. It really did, and it had me for 10 years. But I was what you could say, what some people refer to as a functioning addict, and to where I was able to maintain going to work, paying my bills, doing side work. I was painting furniture, doing really well with that, and also tending to my children whenever on the weekends when I had them, and to just stay cleaned up.
Yeah.
Per se. And then it led me into really surrounding myself with people who were using me for Adderall. And I didn't realize it because I was taking it for my own habit.
Sure.
And
were you supplementing your prescription by buying more other people's prescriptions?
Absolutely.
Had gotten to that point?
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, no real addict's only taking what they're prescribed.
No, absolutely not. No. And whenever I would run out, I was asleep for days until I got that prescription refilled.
Yeah.
That's a true thing.
So at what point, so you're 10 years into an Adderall addiction. How did the next step happen? So
I got into my first real toxic relationship. I had never seen meth, didn't know what meth was until I was 32 years old. Never. Literally didn't have a clue of what it was. I think I had been asked about it a couple of times, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I just literally kept the door shut on it because it wasn't my business, and I just was taking Adderall. So whenever I was 32 years old, I got into my first toxic relationship, and it was the first time that I had been used, manipulated, lied to, deceived, and I was blinded by it because I had never experienced that before. And so that surrounded me with even more people that I had never surrounded myself with. I don't like to categorize people, but I didn't even like to be alone at this point. And so I was strongly abusing my Adderall to stay awake because I didn't know who was who. I didn't know what was what. I didn't know who was coming or going. And I began to live in fear.
Yeah, because you're worried if you go to sleep, what's going to come up missing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Or who's going to come to my house and do what? And yes, exactly, in my own home. And so the turning point of events came about when I was 32 years old. I went home one day, and someone had broken into my home. And it was a real live fight in my home for not just my life, but others. And when you got to do what you got to do, it's not always what you want to do.
And without diving too deep into it, because I'm familiar with it, you had to use your Second Amendment.
Yes.
And somebody died that day.
Yes.
And that, would you call that your rock bottom?
No.
No. So, I easy for me to say I've never had to do that, but I'm not going to, defending myself and my family, that's not going to be my rock bottom. That's actually going to probably be my hill to die on.
Yeah.
But dealing with the fallout of that, is that what led you further into?
At that point, so I faced a life sentence while evidence had to prove my innocence. And let me say, I've never been mad at God about that, because I knew from the time I walked out of my house backwards that the Lord himself allowed me to make it out alive that day for a much bigger reason than I can truly even still begin to fathom. And I've never been mad at the judicial system while evidence had to prove, my innocence, because if that were me, I would hope that they would fight for me like that. However, I began to see, I was incarcerated with no bond. I needed love and affection at the most vital time of my life, and I wasn't receiving that. But praise God that I have a steady mind really, and I was able to just stay calm, and I sat on, the Lord will fight for you. You need only be still. And whenever I was released, I immediately began to see a PTSD specialist, Dr. John Owen. And at that time, I had gone to a few visits with him, and it was going well. And then COVID happened. And when COVID happened, it placed restrictions on us to get the proper medical attention, et cetera, that we needed, and so he passed away from COVID, and bless his soul. At that point, whenever he passed away from COVID, I began to slowly withdraw. I was not verbalizing, communicating my emotions, didn't begin to not be able to sort my thoughts properly, and that led to substance use.
So let me that was what I was going to ask you. So at the point that the shooting happened,
right, you
were using at that point?
No.
That was just Adderall and everything, and your prescribed medicines? Just
Adderall, yes.
So then you
not abusing at that time.
Yeah, so that happened under normal circumstances.
Yes.
Then, but you could still say that because of the people you had surrounded yourself with and the lifestyle, that kind of person ended up in your home.
Mm-hmm.
So you went to jail for a little while this sorted out.
Mm-hmm.
You get out and you're dealing with the depression of during COVID and all that of this, just the weight of taking somebody's life and everything. And that's when you start using.
Yeah.
Okay, let's pick up there.
Okay. So, and I had dabbled in it before. Now, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
Okay. But it was definitely not anything I did regularly, like we had talked about in the past, whenever it was just there or whatever.
Kind of a party additive type thing.
Yeah.
Party favor.
Yeah. And, but at that time, absolutely not. I had, been very aware of what was going on around me. And I was like, oh my gosh, like if anything were to ever happen, like I absolutely cannot, be beyond my own, out of my mind. I've got to be aware. So whenever that happened, whenever the cutoff happened, I literally did not leave my home. Bless my parents, my parents and my family, my youngest daughter's dad and stepmom also had to deal with me, and they were trying to just really understand what I was going through, and everything just didn't make sense. Like I didn't know how to deal with myself. So it led into substance use into an extreme, and rights were removed from my youngest daughter from that pending charge. After 2 years of it pending, evidence.
Well, let's rewind this a little bit. Let's give people a timeline here.
Okay.
When did the shooting happen?
January 3rd of 2018.
2018. So, folks, we're not talking about that long ago. Nikki's turned this thing around on a dime in drug years. Anyway, we're talking about a 4-year term. What's supposed to be 5 years.
Yeah.
January would be 5 years that you've gone from, a normal life somewhat to dealing with a murder conviction, to addiction, to now being a leader at your facility.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's not a long time to have turned your life around. But we'll get to that. I'll tell you what, hold the rest of it. Let's take a break real quick. When we come back, we're going to pick up on losing custody of your youngest.
Yes.
All right, let's pick back up there. This is the Clay Edwards Show. We'll be right back on 103.9. breaking rules when necessary. And I think that really sums up Nikki's life a little bit, having to break some rules every now and then. This segment is going to be brought to you by Boondocks Firearms Training Academy, located right out there on Highway 18 in Raymond. You can go to boondocksfta.com, sign up for one of their new monthly memberships where you can use the training facilities unlimited, get some discounts in the pro shop, and much more. And I think it's important, and I asked Nikki during the break, I said, have you had firearms training? To, because a lot of people get in that situation. They don't know what to do, have to defend your life, defend your family's life. Had you had firearms training?
My dad taught me how to shoot.
Kudos.
Yeah.
Kudos to your father.
Yeah. I have really good parents.
Absolutely. I tell you what.
My dad is awesome.
I tell you, we all need to make sure our kids know how to teach, and I'm saying that out loud to hold myself more accountable there and get them some firearms training. And you can do that.
Absolutely.
Out at Boondocks Firearms Training Academy. Just go to boondocksfta.com and check out their new membership packages. All right, Nikki, real quick. So I just want to make the timeline make sense for folks.
Okay.
This happened January 1st. January 3rd, 2018. So that's when the shooting happened. You were in jail for 3 months. You weren't immediately cleared on this deal.
No.
So you were in jail for 3 months, and then it took 3 years to get cleared.
Yes.
They offered you pleas, all kind of stuff, and you turned it all down.
So we went to go for what they thought was going to be a plea offer, and I said no plea. I'm all in.
Yeah, well, you're innocent.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're innocent. What was it? So a lot of us can't imagine the stress that would put us under. I was just telling her about some things that I'm dealing with that have me all stressed out all the time to the point of I'm losing hair. And I said, but I couldn't imagine like knowing my real freedom, my life. I mean, 20, 30 years, next 20, 30 years of my life could be behind bars because of what I felt like was doing the right thing, defending myself. Man,
there was no instincts. Survival mode kicked in. There was no thinking about anything.
Yeah. So it's at this point you get out and you started using. You lose custody of your daughter.
So I really lost it whenever rights were removed for that pending charge, and really, what it was is they were encouraging me to get my life together, do something. Make something shake, because what I was doing, I was literally withdrawing. I literally, I'm not even kidding when I say my oldest daughter, God, I did some things in front of her that I should have never done. And in my mind, because of how the enemy was attacking me in my head, using me against myself, making me think that, people were using me against myself anyways. Why not just go ahead and play the part?
Yeah.
I mean, it was terrible. But she stuck by me. She encouraged me. And now, so I went through, I was arrested. I was involved.
When you say play the part.
Yeah.
I want to unpack that just a little bit.
Yeah.
You say play the part. You mean be an addict and be a bad person? I mean, that's what you felt like you've been accused of that. So you're like, I've done the time, so I might as well do the crime kind of mentality.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, pick back up.
It was awful. So, I was roaming around Jackson aimlessly, and I met a lot of people who I did drugs with, who have really experienced a trauma. Like, you get to talking to these people, they're people too, and what the Lord has done for me, He's going to do for them too. But I began to get to know them, and I saw something inside of them that was more than just addiction, more than just a criminal. And really, the more that I talked to them, the more I understood them. And praise the Lord that the Spirit lives in me and hand-plucked me from my self-destruction and my self-harm by using. And I was incarcerated. Pearl Police Department showed up in my house heavy. And I'm so thankful that they did. I was literally arrested, and I was smiling in my mugshot because I had just come in agreement with someone that I wanted to go into Teen Challenge to get help. And it's now known as Saving Grace. And I immediately asked for that help, and they said it was part of my bond. I had a wonderful bondsman, Herbie Fields, who bonded me out, and I was taken into treatment.
Hold on. We jumped around just a little bit there. So what did you get arrested? You're out on bond for the murder trial, for the murder case. Is my timeline correct here? And then you get arrested while you're...
No, that was removed.
So you got cleared.
Yes.
From the murder
After
case.
3 years, yes. About 3 years, almost 3 years.
So just within the last year or so, you got arrested and started going through the program?
So it was February 25th of, let's see, I'm going on 20 months clean.
Yeah, so it would have had to have been 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The day my life really changed.
So 20. So that was a month before COVID started. So it would have had to have been 19.
No, it wasn't. It was 20 months ago. I'm terrible with timelines.
What's today's 26? All right. So, but your doctor died from COVID somewhere in there.
In like 2018 or 2019, yeah.
It wouldn't have been COVID then. COVID happened in 2020.
He passed away from COVID.
Okay. Well, our timeline's a little off, but
okay.
it happens. All right. So
I'm sorry, I was using drugs.
so you get arrested for drugs.
Yes.
What was the charge?
I had paraphernalia, and then there was a stolen vehicle that they say was in my driveway, and I don't know if it was or if it wasn't, but I was very thankful for whatever the reason was that they showed up at my house, and I was incarcerated because I knew it was an escape for me to get help.
Yeah, and so you go in and you bond out and you go straight into Teen Challenge at that point, and you've pretty much been in there since. Yes.
And we have transitioned to Saving Grace Women's Home. And really what that is all about is that there were so many, we have already been working side by side with Saving Grace, and we've merged with them. And it's been a huge blessing. Pastor Don Norden is over our centers. We have 6 women's centers. And we are... Like, I went to Arkansas for treatment, so I was able to go away from my area and get the proper, see a new site, get my mind clear.
Not have somebody you can call to come break you out if you wanted to get out, all that stuff. Tell you what, hold that thought, because I want to hear about the recovery process. Okay. And then we got a bunch of questions on the text line. Okay. The Guns and Gear text line. If you guys have any questions for Nikki, we're going to do a whole segment where we answer questions. 769-241-1944. If you want to call in and interject your opinion or question, the Mac Hike and Flowwood phone line, 601-879-0002. I just ask that you keep it respectful this morning, stay on topic, and feel free to ask her anything. This is the Clay Edwards Show, joined by Nikki Patchin. We'll be right back on 103.9 WYAB. Breaking rules when necessary. Welcome back in to the Clay Edwards Show. We're live here on 103.9 WYAB. During the break, we got the timeline figured out. You got arrested in February of 21.
Okay.
And that would have been approaching 20 months sober.
Yes,
so
yes.
That gets the timeline, and then the doctor passed away from COVID during the COVID timeline. So just say when you've lived a lot of life, time gets away from you.
It does,
and the timelines get away from you. I've been saying I've been out of the bar business for 10 years, for 15 years. So somewhere I started saying 10 years, and I've just never added the rest of the time to it. So time will get away from you pretty easily. So I want to talk about from checking into recovery, and you got to Arkansas. You had to get away from here to really clear the fog,
right?
And you get new surroundings. That's one of the most important things. You have to get away from your comfort base, from your people you used around. The ability to pick up the phone and be like, I'm tired of this crap. Come pick me up.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to stay in these facilities. I mean, they're not jail. You can leave.
Right. Absolutely.
So you have to have the discipline to stay, or sometimes the forced discipline because you have nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
So tell us about going to Arkansas.
It was wonderful. So we do have another center there that we send ladies to at this time. Same situation, Mississippi. We get them out of their comfort zone. And I went to Arkansas. They provided 20 hours of intense therapy per week for me to help me get my communication skills back, to be able to sort my thoughts, to be able to be here today and just have this conversation. They provided exercises where I'm able to recognize my triggers. And whenever I'm like getting out of my window of tolerance, what I will tolerate, what I will not, and just be able to sort my emotion and my the trauma responses.
That's interesting. I like the idea of learning your triggers, because I think it's important, because a lot of us who have gone through addiction and know people that go through addiction, we know that it's certain triggers. It can be. We talked about this last week when we set this up. Music.
Yeah.
Music. You can hear, like I can hear an old Snoop Dogg or Dr. Dre song or something, and that takes me back. As much as I love listening to that stuff, it can trigger something in my brain that takes me back to, man, when I listened to that, I was drinking and doing drugs and having a real good time. What if I did that today?
Yeah.
And you said you only listen to Christian music.
I do. I cannot even be around it because it gets something going inside of me, and my hands start wanting to lift up, and my hips start wanting to do this weird thing that they don't do anymore.
Twerk something.
And so I just really like to, stay God posture, proper posture, aligned up to honor and glorify the Lord in all that I do, even my body language, and what I put in my body. And that's from music to even drugs to transition to loaded tea now. Well,
in the nightclub business, with as far as like the music the music equipment, the gear, the production, it was like you put crap in, you get crap out. It's just like your diet.
Yeah.
If you run a crappy signal into it, you're going to get a crappy signal out of it, and that's a great analogy for music too.
It's true. That's very true.
All right, so you're going through this. They're teaching you about your triggers and all this.
Yeah. And so then you become a leader. I became a leader. We started taking out crews, going to ministry teams on Sundays. When I'm telling you, when we go into these churches and we share our testimonies, even right now, I'm leaving chains. Right now, chains are falling off of me as I'm speaking about this. And we leave chains on the altar, and just it's freedom in sharing our testimony and what the goodness of God is about, And so we go that. Well, then I came back. I moved back. Saving Grace stepped in over our program, and we merged. And now we actually expanded our territory. The Lord has expanded our territory, where we are able to go to fundraise, to do ministry teams, even outreach, etc., and expanded the horizons of opportunity. We were able to go back into the jails where, under the restrictions that we were under. The
COVID restrictions kept you from getting in there. Like we talked about it, Benny Ivy and them dealt with the same thing with their strong arms Rankin County thing. They couldn't get into the jails to do their work.
Right.
So it kind of stunted the growth of their Rankin County deal till last year or so.
Absolutely.
Same thing there.
And that's all booming too. The trustee program and Strong Arms and Celebrate Recovery has been a huge impact on my recovery as well. Having that accountability, I have a sponsor.
Sheriff Brian Bailey and Paul Hawley and that team out there at the Rankin County Sheriff's Department are so open to helping folks get help. Like when folks in their facility can get to being a trustee, and they're allowing these folks to come in, and there's a lot to be said for that. Like they don't get the attention they deserve,
right?
I think
they actually. I talked to someone yesterday at church or Sunday at church who is a trustee. He's in college, enrolled into college. He works for the city of Brandon. Doing work for the county.
Sure.
And
the city or the county.
I believe
probably the county.
I think it's the county, if I'm not mistaken. But they have opportunity to stay, from my understanding, and work for the city. Building the community of.
There's a guy that they did that was part of one of their interstate drug busts, and I don't know his name off the top of my head here. It's part of one of Rankin County's interstate drug busts. It was young. He was like 18 or so, and he worked his way through the trustee program. He now works for the Rankin County Sheriff's Department. I mean, but that's a sheriff and a program that gets that if you're not helping rehabilitate these folks, you're just creating habitual offenders.
Absolutely. And they're the ones who gave me the pass to go into my program and to go into another state because they wanted the best for me and my recovery.
Because it's what's best for Rankin County. I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's okay to say what's good for the gander is good for the goose.
Right.
I mean, it's okay to be, even if you want to call it selfish, it's okay to be selfish when it's for the greater good.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you have to be selfish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even if you want to call it selfish, that may be a poor choice of words on my end, but it's okay if you're doing it for the greater good. Tell me this. We've got a lot of questions. You ready to answer some questions? First thing, Roger had asked early on, I didn't get to it. Can they just go to a website and donate? Is there a permanent GoFundMe set up? How can people that want to donate to you guys donate? Okay, so thank you so much for that question. And the answer is you go to Saving Grace WH, and that stands for Women's Home. SavingGraceWH. Yes. .com. Yes. And then you will, if you would like to donate to the Mississippi Center to build our, where we have now our home is, you just click on Mississippi, the option, and then you fill out the further information, and it will give you a donation amount option. You can also become a monthly supporter, and that is something that is huge. We are really trying to work on getting a transitional area, a staff home for our property so that people like me and many others on our property are given the opportunity to stay in a safe place, work on getting their kids back in their lives, have the children come on property to spend the night with their moms. We have some ladies in our program who are working with CPS right now to get their kids back. But what are they going to do whenever they leave? We want to provide that opportunity. Kim Way talks a lot about when he's promoting Mercy House is, if you're looking for a good ministry to sow into, they talk about putting fathers back in homes. And gosh knows, as a father, I know how important that is. But we can also agree it's extremely important to get the mother back in the home too. And, absolutely. And if that's your calling, please reach out to these folks and see if you can help, whether it's $10, $20. What about, I know you went by Amber's house and picked up the clothes and stuff the other day. What if people got some coats and clothes they want to donate? Do y'all have a pantry type deal where you can donate stuff too? That's something thank you for asking that. We are actually looking to grow a blessings closet. We have a wide variety of types of ladies who come into our home, and they're growing spiritually, physically. Big, tall, short, and small. Yeah. And so we are looking to have a blessings closet where they can just go in there and pick out, pants, shirts, jackets, shoes, comfortable that are gently worn, really, so that they can have a sense of, in our mess, self-worth. Yes, exactly, and value, for sure. And so, let me say this. Nikki wouldn't say it, but I will. Don't just throw out your trash and want them to come pick it up. If you've got something that maybe you've outgrown or lost some weight, a lot of you guys have been getting up with ants and Walker. You've been losing weight, living that Walker lifestyle. We'll call it your fat clothes. I got some. Donate your fat clothes to them if maybe because they're gonna be a lot of these girls are gonna be coming in. They're gonna be growing because they're eating right and doing things. Yeah, absolutely. And man, I just called a bunch of people fat, and I promise I didn't mean to. But you know what I'm saying, guys. Give them some nice stuff if you got it. Yes. So anyway, I don't want to keep talking myself into a corner there. Let's get some more questions here. Kim Harrington messaged in and says, if you could go back and change anything about what happened, would you? And what has been the most healing aspect of your recovery thus far? Oh my goodness. Okay. Those are really good questions. If I could go back and change anything, honestly, I wouldn't. This is all a part of God's plan. And I've learned so much throughout my journey. And I believe the goal is, for us to let that resonate and learn from our past so that we can not do the same thing in the future. But there's nothing I would change. I'm so thankful for every single trial and tribulation that I've been through because now I can, honor and glorify what the Lord has done in my life.
And then what was the second question?
The second was, what's been the most rewarding part of your journey of recovery so far?
Oh, man. The rewarding part of my journey is the day I walked into my daughter's bedroom and both of my children were in bed together, and I woke up to that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's the little things.
It's the little things.
All right, so we got another text here. This isn't so much a question as much as it is at a girl, and it says not able to call in at the moment. It's from an unknown texter. Not able to call in at the moment, but wanted to say I've known Nikki for a long time and her dad even longer. He certified me as a forklift driver when I was 18 years old. Always been great people, and I just want to say I'm sorry for everything she had to go through. I followed the shooting situation and defended her multiple times when people wanted to badmouth her about everything that happened. And I want her to know how proud I am of her, that she has turned everything around and has found a way to bring positivity to others who may be going through a similar situation. Love you, girl. Keep up the good work.
Love
and
you.
if you would, text me who you are so I can tell her off air. Rick says something about what did Rick say? How does she feel about doing time for something she was innocent of, knowing people are on camera killing and attempting to kill people get released with no bond in some states?
How I feel about that is really and truthfully, I'm thankful for that time also. I saw a lot of things. I was able to experience a side of life that I had never experienced. I saw a lot of things. It softened my heart in a lot of ways. Like I told you yesterday, whenever people used to call me from jail, I was like, oh man, that's sucks. And I would hang up the phone. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, do they need whites? They need, but I didn't know that people actually catch charges just to go to sleep in a warm place and eat 3 meals a day.
That's part of going back, and you said you don't regret anything. I mean, you wouldn't be where you are without everything. I mean, it's terrible that somebody had to lose their life, but I mean, as you said, that's God's plan. We can't question it, no matter how hard it is sometimes. Like, look, let's take a break. We'll come back. I want to hit a few more comments, and we'll land the plane for the day. Okay. I'm joined by Nikki Patchin here on the Clay Edwards Show on 103.9 WYAB. Breaking rules when necessary. Welcome back into the Clay Edwards Show. We are live here in the Dustin Bailey at Southern Magnolias Realty Studio. My guest today has been Nikki Patchin with Saving Grace Women's Home. Saving Grace Women's Home. And, man, look, she's been telling her story. We've been going through some great questions and comments from folks. I am reading all your texts. Some of them are just too deep to get in on air. So you know who I'm talking to. Nikki, let's close out with. We got about a minute left. Tell people again how they can donate.
They can go to Saving Grace, www.savinggracewh.com, and if you would like to donate to the Mississippi Center. In our local community for it to grow and flourish, and just you click on the Mississippi Center, and then you can put in your donate amount, and then there's monthly sponsorship option that helps to have us a steady income, or you can contact me at 601-572-7878 if you have any physical donations that you want to get. We can get together and get those.
Excellent. That was Nolan who had texted in about your dad giving him his forklift stuff. Sorry, Nolan. I thought I had your number locked in there. And Amber texted back in and just said, very proud of you. Great job. So, look, I've enjoyed this. Yes. I feel like the first time you talk to somebody, it's like you got to tell everybody everything, and you're worried you may forget something. So why don't we do this again? Yeah. And come back where the chains are off of you a little bit more. Yeah. And you can relax and, just talk.
Amen. And, I would love that.
Maybe it's the podcast. Maybe it's the radio show. Either way, let's do that. We'll plan on that. If you've heard this today and you want to tell your story, you're welcome to. Give me a call. Mike Madison up next. See y'all tomorrow. ClayEdwardsShow.com.
Thanks for listening. Tune in tomorrow at 7 a.m. as the Clay Edwards Show discusses all that is going on in and around the city of Jackson.
This concludes our broadcast day.
Right here on 103.9 WYAB.